So next question is from this guy. He says, "Hey guys, I got my first RYS stack this week. Very impressed. My question is, my main GMB is kind of on the outskirts, somewhat rural. I created a second GMB in my main city. It's only about 8 to 10 miles as the crow flies from my first location. I've thrown a ton at the second GMB and has just never done well. Is it possible they're both competing with each other? Yes, it is very possible. Should I remove one or set them both up as SABs and just have service area businesses and just have the areas not overlap? Yes, you can do that. That's one of the and it's likely that that's what you're seeing is you've got if they're especially if they're the same brand name. If you have two GMBs with the same brand name, especially for service area businesses, if they're storefront businesses, you know, where customers come to the business location, then that doesn't happen as often, not nearly as often, because you could have literally a Starbucks 3 blocks away from, in some cases on every block, right? And they'll still show up in search. But with service area businesses, yes. And I've experienced that many times myself. In fact, I think it was 3 years ago now when we developed a training called Local Lease Pro, and it was about going out and just securing. This was at the time where you could secure GMBs like nothing. It was crazy easy. And so we developed a training specifically about how to go out and just secure a bunch of GMBs in a particular area. And what I experienced through that was, besides we got a shit ton of GMBs and learned to, how to develop processes for optimizing all of them really well, which was great. But what I learned was that if they were too close together, that they just wouldn't perform well. Like they would kind of compete against each other, or sometimes one would like trump some of the others that were around it, and that one would appear, but the other ones wouldn't, like in their locations. And so it would vary. Either they would all suck, or some of them would be filtered out while others would still remain. So yes, it can cause problems that way. So that is one way to remedy it, is if it's a service area business, you should have your service areas set anyways. But if you had one in the rural outskirts, like you said, which was your original, and then you have a newer one that's more in the, more metropolitan area or the city or whatever, the more populated area, then yeah, make sure that you're not overlapping service areas there. So, like I do tree service stuff. So typically we will add in for service areas a county, or if there's more than one location in a particular county, then we'll do it on a city level and even a zip code. I think they stopped allowing zip codes though. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while because I've been trying to stay out of GMBs, newer ones anyways. But I think they stopped being able to add zip codes. I may be wrong about that, but what you want to do is just make sure that you segregate the two to where there's no overlap. And then after that, just give it a little bit of time. Something else is the one that's in the more populated area. Do some geo posts about that. Like, in other words, you can schedule or produce content. You could just use Google posts for that, GMB posts for that, but you can go out and find areas within the service area that you're going to set for that GMB, and just look at like neighborhoods or, districts or areas, parks, even things like that are well-known, like landmarks within Google. And a lot of times you can just go to Google Maps and look like at your location, and you'll see, you can just change the zoom level and you'll see different landmarks or points of interest that have been labeled on Google Maps. And so you can use those as like location relevancy items. Like, in other words, you can create GMB posts where you're targeting your keywords, your products or services, and the location, like the city name, but you also add a few sentences or a blurb about the landmark, that you found as well. Because what happens is, if you do that consistently, you can start to influence Google to, tell Google like that, yes, you indeed are working in those areas, and you've got content on your GMB to prove it, right, through posts. So that's another good way to do it. It doesn't happen overnight, but if you do that consistently, and also go check out Local GMB Pro if you haven't already, because we talk about how to do all kinds of really ninja things in Local GMB Pro that will help you to overcome some of those issues as well. Any comments on that, guys?
No, sir.
Okay.